Hello, and welcome to this final lesson, which will show you how to finalize your business case for executive review. After you have finished this lesson, you will be able to, firstly, stress test the financial model to see if it works properly. Secondly, sanity check the output of the model. Thirdly, build 3 additional scenarios. And finally, evaluate the 3 strategic options of the Hot Wheels case study. When finalizing your business case, there are 4 main steps to follow. Firstly, you need to stress test your model, which means checking whether it works properly. Secondly, sanity check your numbers to ensure your model yields reasonable outputs. Thirdly, develop a few possible scenarios based on what parameters may change in the future, such as an economic downturn. And fourthly, complete the project by assessing the strategic options or tasks you were originally given. As you move through the rest of the lesson, you will consider each step in more detail. As you have progressed through this course, you have built cost and revenue forecasts for the Hot Wheels Motor Company, primarily to determine if the 2022 goal of €7 billion in operating income is feasible or not. Now, as you begin to wrap up the business case and look at the impact of the CEO's strategic initiatives, please take time to reread the case study background. The first step in finalizing your business case is to stress test your model to check if it is functioning properly. You can do this by creating test cases by using extreme input values that stress test your model. After choosing several input assumptions you would like to change to test your model, write down the anticipated impact in key output figures. Then, change the different input assumptions to extreme values and cross-check the output with your anticipated changes. If your assumptions are not correct, dig deeper to check for any mistakes in the model. Some examples of input changes and anticipated changes are shown on the right hand of the slide. The second step in finalizing your business case is to sanity check your numbers to ensure the output is within an acceptable range. Here, you need to challenge your business case output by asking some key questions, such as, does my revenue growth result in a realistic market share? Or, do the SG&A growth projections make sense given my increased scale? It is also worth asking your team and peers to sanity check the outputs. The next stage is to develop a few possible scenarios based on what parameters may change in the future. Scenarios are possible changes in the future environment due to external uncertainties, such as a new market entrant or an economic downturn. Firstly, list a few of the most likely future scenarios relevant to your organization. Then, for each scenario, determine the input you would expect to change. After this, determine the range that the input can cover. And finally, run the business case for the different scenarios to see the possible change in outputs. For Hot Wheels, 3 possible scenarios could be built, focusing on a new market entrant, a drop in the price of commodity goods such as oil, steel, or rubber, and lastly, a global economic downturn. The slide shows the business case input parameters that could change. Can you think of any other scenarios appropriate to Hot Wheels? This slide shows how you could integrate the different scenarios into your business case, the range of inputs you would expect to change, and the adjustments to the projections needed. To gauge the impact of the different scenarios, the inputs can then be reflected in a new version of the business case summary. This can be done manually or by using Excel macros if you know how to use them. Now, let's assess the impact of the CEO's strategic initiatives. At this stage, it would be beneficial to secure some time with the CEO, or one of his direct reports, to clarify the details of each initiative. Prepare a list of questions you can ask at the meeting, obtain further information, and then assess the subsequent impact on EBIT. Finally, compare the result with the numbers you calculated when you were preparing your early hypotheses. To incorporate the reduction in staff numbers, you were able to obtain further information about the specific work grade of people affected, and therefore could add precision to your numbers. By extrapolating the 2017 downsizing number out to 2022, in line with COGS growth forecasts, you can then isolate the proportion attributable to labour. The 2022 EBIT impact is about half of what you estimated at the beginning of the project. To incorporate the operational cost-cutting measures, you were able to obtain further information about the specific areas within SG&A that would be reduced. In this case, the plan was to reduce marketing expenses by 15% in 2018, which equated to 6% of total SG&A, larger than the 2% of total SG&A you had originally planned for. By extrapolating a 2017 marketing reduction out to 2022 in line with SG&A growth forecasts, you can then isolate the SG&A impact. The 2022 EBIT impact is 4 times greater than what you estimated at the beginning of the project, simply because the scale of planned cost reductions was greater than you originally planned for. And finally, to incorporate the third market entry initiative, you could obtain further information about the specific market Hot Wheels wanted to enter. In this case, the plan was to enter into the Iranian car market and achieve approximately 24,000 car sales per year within 5 years. By obtaining a rest-of-world car price from your data sources and calculating a 2022 average price, you can estimate the sales revenue. Then, by applying a cost proportion based on your COGS and SG&A car data, you can derive the EBIT impact. The 2022 EBIT impact is in line with the CEO's earlier target of 1% additional sales by 2022, and is also what you estimated the EBIT impact to be at the beginning of the project. This slide shows how you could incorporate the impact of the CEO's strategic initiatives in your own model, similar to how you can incorporate the different scenarios we covered earlier. Now you are ready to give your final recommendations to the CEO based on your business case output. After computing revenue and cost forecasts, you estimate EBIT to reach €6.3 billion by 2022, well below the CEO's stated target of €7 billion. An economic downturn or the entry of a new competitor into the premium segment could further reduce the EBIT forecast. However, if commodity prices were to fall by 25%, then the EBIT could reach an estimated €7.4 billion by 2022. The CEO also proposed 3 new strategic initiatives. If all 3 initiatives are launched and turn out to be successful, Hot Wheels can reach its €7 billion EBIT target by 2022. You estimate that plans to reduce marketing expenses by 15% will have a positive EBIT impact of €0.4 billion, and reducing 7% of production staff will have a positive EBIT impact of €0.3 billion. Entering the Iranian market will also generate a positive EBIT impact of €0.1 billion. You would also prioritize the delivery of the cost efficiency initiative over the other 2 initiatives, as it drives the biggest contribution to EBIT. Congratulations! You have now completed your business case. In summary, when finalizing your business case, it is important to stress test your model by using extreme inputs to test the outputs. And take time to sanity check your numbers with some key questions and challenges. It helps to build scenarios to understand and account for possible changes in the future business environment. And finally, review the key tasks and assess the strategic options for the organization, and prepare your recommendations. Thank you for participating, and see you next time on another exciting business training lesson from Pontema.